Good. Good morning, you two.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for spending some time chatting today.
Yeah.
So, for everyone, just to give a little context, I guess Christina and I met each other, was it almost 3 years ago now? Is it three? Yeah,
I
three.
think so.
Because what year was it that you moved here from Oregon?
Well, I moved here like a year and a half ago, but I was commuting from
Maybe.
Oregon
Yeah.
to the Atlanta area for at least a year before that. So,
So I think we've known each other 3 years.
mhm.
I think it was, yeah, in 2021 that we
Yes.
connected first. So Christina and I have known each other for a few years, and as she might share a little bit later, she had been spending time in Oregon and came for a visit, and we immediately had a connection, and we built a deep friendship over the last few years and watched each other's journeys, and it's really been a beautiful relationship. So I'm excited to co-create this experience with her, and I'm just meeting Laura, who's Christina's partner in this. And we're going to get to hear from them today and just talking about the nature of the retreat and their work and intimacy and all these fun things. So, do you two want to start introducing yourselves individually and talking a little about your individual paths before you tell us about how you came together to do this work?
You wanna go first?
No, you go ahead,
I go
start.
first? Okay. Hello, I'm Christina. My journey, I'd say, started around 2015. I started having this sort of spontaneous spiritual awakening. And life took me away from my neuroscience researcher background into the medicine path and spirituality and mysticism. And within that, I'm of Peruvian ancestry. And so there's a particular medicine, a plant medicine, very integral to my lineage. And I was communing with that master plant regularly and opening up my psychic gifts. And life led me into this journey of sound medicine. I was initiated by a Cherokee Taino Chacta medicine woman, and she taught me the art of medicine songs. And I had this vocal liberation. I used to sing opera, I was classically trained. And in that liberation of my voice, I noticed that there was a ripple effect where, oh, I suddenly am able to open my voice to my true raw sound. Now I can speak more directly with full honesty, transparency. I started developing this really delicate art of like being able to communicate in ways that would be very easily received by people, not put people on the defensive. So being able to preface things so that they're um, laced with as much kindness and compassion as possible so that it could really land with people. And my relationships started transforming with my family, with my friends, with my beloved. Um, and as I was going on this path, I was living with a woman, curandera, originally from Spain. I lived with her for 2 years, and she taught me the art of ceremony, of holding space. While I was living with her, she encouraged me to uh, host my first like group sound healing circles and things of that nature. And it was so sweet to have this mentor friend with me and just give me little reminders while I'm kind of quivering in my boots doing something new, and have her delicately put her hand on my leg and take a deep breath in and out, so that she was like silently reminding me to just slow down in words. And yeah, I value and cherish everything she passed on to me from her mentors. Um, so yeah, I learned the art of ceremony. It's an ever refining art. And so I started consistently hosting group gatherings, and they naturally started evolving from just sound, from just voice activation, helping people connect to their raw voice, to more of what I call now soul embodiment, literally embodying more of your soul in this physical expression and living that in your day-to-day life as the soul self. Um, and so there's a lot of different modalities, crystal healing, intuitive touch, the medicine songs, various things, but it's all to help people step more fully into the highest version of themselves now. And that comes in many different ways and different flavors. It's very unique to the group and to the individuals that make it up. I just arrive empty as a clear vessel to transmit whatever is in the highest interest of everyone who's present at that moment. And that's how I am now. That's what I do now. So that's a little bit about me. I'll pass it to Laura.
Well, do you have anything to add to that,
Yeah.
Paula?
No, I was just saying it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Laura. I'm originally from Colombia. And my journey, yeah, Cosmo is saying hello. I actually was in the background. Okay, he's like distracted me in 1 second. Okay, a little interruption. So I was just saying my background is actually a little bit different in that I started through all of this journey because of golf. I used to play golf for college and my whole life. That's how I got into the United States. And then eventually I turned professionally after college. And then I was, for the first time, traveling alone. I went to Europe and I spent 4 years in Europe. And in that journey, when I was just with myself, it was just like, oof, yeah. The arriving into my body through nutrition. And it was just, like I was saying earlier, you know, like you just meet these people at the right time in the right moment. And for me, it was a sports psychologist that kind of like changed my perspective and gifted me with so much awareness that I thought, oh no, I'm eating fine and everything is fine, I'm fine. And then just this awareness was like, oh, well, actually, I need maybe to pay a little bit more attention into what I'm putting into my body because it really influences how I am, you know, performing as an athlete. So that was for me very like transformational in that my food was able to like control how or affect how I was thinking, how I was feeling, and also my surroundings and how I was feeling with people and connecting. And so that for me was like, whoa, like where has this been all my life? Where was this knowledge? And so I just dove deep into like a yeah, into like what is this nutrition? Why is it that we behave the way that we behave? And so I got very like passionate about it, and golf kind of took a second place, while also I was like navigating a lot of like inner battles with golf. Like later, after 4 years, I realized that golf was not really my true calling, that I was doing it for someone else, and just getting out of that was just a whole journey in its own. So yeah, it was just those 4 years that kind of built me into that courage to be true to, okay, what is it that I want? Because I think I never asked myself this question. And yeah, just taking the step of, I don't know, but let's find out. So I knew nutrition was kind of like my passion at that time, just like how it just interacted with the brain and the emotions. And I came back to Georgia because that was what was familiar. And also I was, I had my boyfriend here. And so I went that like straight into school again. I had to do all of my science background. And I remember having my first anatomy class and I was just tearing up, and I knew this was the path for me, just like within the body, like coming back to the body. And yeah, within that journey, I just, you know, got into, oh my gosh, mindset, you know, like life coaching. And it was just like, okay, but that's not the whole piece, right? Like you cannot just heal with logic. And so I kept finding these walls as my journey kind of evolved of like, well, there's something else missing. And I had that nutrition aspect, I had that like beliefs and like mindset aspect of things. And then my last bit after, you know, finishing my master's in nutrition was the emotional work. And that really, you know, if you had to go to therapy for 10 years, that kind of was for me like 6 months work, like really my soul stretched in ways that I'm still to this day integrating. And this happened a year and a half ago. It really opened up so many things of me that I didn't know and that I were blind spotted. And so it got me into a whole different journey of depth of, okay, what it is to be human and what it is to be human in the collective as well. You know, like what are we doing for, and just starting to realize, well, we kind of all want the same thing, to create like a more compassionate, loving world where we can be, you know, in our essence, and we are actually celebrated for our unique gifts and talents. And I got a little bit of that piece when I went through this training. It's called New Emotional Release. They do it online, and that's where I got like all of the somatic work and the foundations of working with the body. And that for me was like really, really big, because I was someone that was very mental and intellectualized a lot of the things that was happening. And getting into the body and getting into the feelings, getting into the sensing of the body was just for me that piece that kind of helped me align within myself and just connect to my, you know, expression. Just like, okay, how do I communicate? How do I put my boundaries? How do I say no when I really want to say no and not just yes, because I can't see people disappointed. And so that was just a whole journey. When I went into that, it was just like, okay, I'm ready to release all of my emotions. And when I started the whole journey, it was like a little bit more complex and nuanced to that, because the body has a different frame and time. And so my mind was like, no, I'm ready. I'm so done. And then I went into my body and my body was like, no, girl, you still need some time to kind of warm up into it. And it's been like that for the past year and a half. And it just comes at times and very softly and gently. And that's what I've been learning, is just that the more I connect into my body, the more I allow myself to feel, I'm opening up all of these portals of the juice of being alive, of what it really means to be a human, not just with the positive and only good vibes type of thing. No, it's like, okay, let's integrate these parts of myself that I really dislike and that I want to be gone of my life, actually, because I think they're problematic. But instead it's like, okay, how do I change that relationship within myself and integrate these parts of me that are part of me, of being human? And so that's what I've been trying, well, to do for these past years and a half. Is just like, the more I am in this journey, the more I get to know myself, the more I'm learning to hold myself within, you know, the ebbs and flows of life, because it just never goes away. You know, it's not like, oh, now I'm just gonna be like levitate. No, it's like it maybe the frequency just decreases, you know, with the triggers and stuff like that. But it's just been a fun journey to just get to know myself more, to hold myself more. And in exchange, I've been able to be a better facilitator. I've been able to like hold space for others in front of me in ways that, you know, I never thought was possible, you know, just in the depth of the psyche and the body. And just, that's what I do. I help people like connect back into their body, not just with the mind, but both. It's a combination. We are multi-dimensional beings at the end, right? It's like we cannot just work with the logic. We have to also bring the sensations, the feelings, and also, okay, the beliefs and all of this stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. I just help people kind of go back to home, to their bodies, to navigate the ebbs and flows through the emotional body, as well as, you know, like the mental body. It's like a combination. And just with the integration piece of nutrition and nourishing our bodies as we go through these changes of consciousness. And yeah, that's where I am now. And how we met was pretty beautiful too, no?
Right.
It was interesting, the story for me, because I I was going to an emotional release training last year in January in Colorado. And in my way there, I heard some people in the back of my seat just talk about all of this consciousness and like the body and all of that. I was like, whoa, that's strange, but like, wow. And then I look around and the guy was like talking to this other neighbor about it and super passionate. And I was like, okay, I gotta initiate the conversation. Well, I initiated the conversation and it happened to be Tati and Nick. I don't know if you know them.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we started talking, we connected very quickly. And yeah, they were gonna be there for the same time that I was gonna be there in Colorado. We ended up going back in the same flight back to Atlanta. So it was very funny the way we met, but they were already connected with like a community here in Atlanta, Soul Dance. And they were like, yeah, come over. Because I was in the search of people that were a little bit more aligned and conscious with what I was already working, because I didn't have that myself when I started this whole thing. And yeah, that's how I got into soul dance. And then the first few times I was just going on my own, and then I would meet them. But then eventually they like went to a party. I don't know what it was.
The Manifest Your Dreams
Yes.
event
Yes.
that a mutual friend put on at a friend's house.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then I arrived. I only knew Tati and Nick, and Christina was there.
We were there and we were outside and we were picnicking. There was like a little potluck and I was going through a really tender moment. I don't recall exactly what I was working through at the time, but you know, as someone who like consistently holds ceremonial space, it's common amongst facilitators to be like, you know, when do I get held? When do I get held? Because a lot of my journey since I started on that path was like holding myself, you know, really learning to be my own best loving parent. So much of my inner work has been like alone in my room, like tending to all these aspects and you know, working with myself. And I was in a tender moment. I don't know what came up in our conversation, but I started expressing to Laura. I just met her. I'm an open book, so I have no problem with being vulnerable with strangers, but I started confiding in her what was on my heart, and I just started sobbing. I could feel like my hurt little girl just coming out, and I was so raw and exposed in this expression, and I just started crying, and Laura immediately, like, she just was there, you know, and she immediately, I could tell, I was like, oh, we're in session world now, you know, like when you can feel the air start to shift and tingle and it like sparkles with this new frequency, and I felt us enter that, and she guided me through this beautiful what some people call like a quantum healing. You kind of go back to what was a traumatic memory and rewrite it in real time and move through it the way that you would have liked, or in a way that feels empowering now, or bringing your now self into that past and being your guardian and walking yourself through. So we went on a journey, and the piece we retrieved for myself was like, it's on the tip of my brain. It had to do with fear that I was like taking too much. It was a memory of when I was on food stamps with my sister when I was like 15. My parents got divorced and we didn't have food because it all had to go to the baby formula to feed our little baby niece. And since there was no food in the cabinets, I would eat a lot at my friend's house for dinner. And I ate so much, and I'd like gorge myself every time I went there because I didn't know where my next meal would be. And her mom told her to tell me, her mom didn't know what was happening with me, but her mom like scolded me and told my friend to tell me that like I can't eat that much food at their house. And I felt so much shame, like so much shame and embarrassment and yeah, sadness. And so the piece we retrieved was that like I was doing the best that I could at the time, and that it was innocent. It was innocent. There was nothing, I didn't do anything bad or wrong. It's just what was at the time. So yeah, Laura just held really beautiful space for me. And it's like with people, with anyone, facilitators, or we can go through the trainings and we can get the certifications and we can do the things, but at the end of the day, our transmission speaks for itself. And like how we actually show up in the space with someone is what speaks for itself. And so even though I didn't know her or her background at that point, it was like I felt her, like, here is the space holder, the one who can hold it down. And it was just particularly touching to me because I had rarely felt that I could be held. There are a few people that I trusted to hold me at the level that like my mentor friends have held me. So it was very sweet and very humbling to run into this acquaintance who just like held me so masterfully in such a spontaneous way. So and then she came to a voice activation I led a few weeks later.
Yes, and then we exchanged, like,
Oh yeah, we traded sessions. Yeah.
And that for me was also like, whoa, just like what she was saying, the fact of being held by someone else, like you don't have to be the space holder for all the time, or sometimes you have like friends and people that perhaps are a little bit behind in their own journey, and they just, without permission, they're just dumping on their complaints and stuff like that. And like you as a space holder, you hold the space, but like you gotta put into your cup because eventually you'll run out and feel like a little bit exhausted and depleted.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful to find people that can also do the same for you, to reciprocate the holding space, because at the end, it's really, this is what I think it's so beautiful. It's not me being the healer, but it's actually a symbiotic relationship, because when I'm holding space for someone, I'm also healing parts of me that I didn't know needed healing in a way. So, and vice versa, like when I was receiving from her, it was just like I was held and I could fall apart. And that, in a safe space and in a safe container with a lot of tender love and compassion, is very healing for my nervous system. And I'm rewiring that it's okay to fall apart, and it's okay to be human, and it's okay to weep and cry and let this pain, like be seen and witnessed without the judgment and the shame that perhaps this inner voice lives in us, just like beating us down because we are having these feelings. So yeah, so since then we've, it's like a really beautiful connection, kind of like a sisterhood. And I was telling her not too long ago, it's like I've written down like dreams of like, I want a sisterhood. I want someone that can also nourish me the way I nourish others. Like I want this to be a symbiotic relationship. I want to find a woman that can, hold space as well. And, me holding space as well. And then just kind of collaborate and grow together in a way that, from a place of abundance and not from a place where I grew up with, especially with golf, of I gotta step on you to win. Competition was a big one for me. Like I remember, looking at my competitors and being like, I'm gonna fuck you up, inside. That was my energy. That was my vibe.
Yeah.
And now coming to a place of like, we can all win. This is beautiful. Like I didn't have to be like so hateful. And also like, also noticing when my body feels, the jealousy or the envious or all of these things that come up as a feeling that we just shame. And it's just about, unshaming those feelings that perhaps are part of being human, but we don't talk about those very often. So we think it's just me living that experience. And so, yeah, it's been just a beautiful journey.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Why don't we talk a little bit about what that context of sort of your gifts, the way you explain them, and your relationship now. You want to talk about a little bit for the retreat, how you two partner together, and kind of how you blend your talents and gifts, and what somebody might expect to receive?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I met Laura and learned more about the Neo emotional release training, I realized it actually was fusing a bunch of the modalities and techniques and experiences that I was intuitively coming into in my own path. So they dovetail just seamlessly. Um, and with the retreat, so how I was saying in my journey was first through sound and like opening up the voice. It was like simultaneous to that, there was a lot with kind of the sacral chakra area, the pelvic area. I was doing like sacred workshops, and there was this like sensual dance and movement and undulatory movement, and how that like opens up all these spaces inside, and what a healing experience that was for me to connect to the body, where we have this theme of like connecting to the body. Um, and as time has gone on recently, I've made the connection of like, wow, the voice and the sacral area are so intimately connected. And what are they connected for? It's for intimacy. So when people hear the word intimacy, sometimes they think it's like a code word for sex or sexual activity. What we mean by it is showing up vulnerably in the moment with someone, showing up in authenticity, in truth, being able to communicate honestly and transparently and be seen in your rawness, to see another, to witness another in their rawness, to feel exposed and vulnerable and still show up in courage and be with the truth of the moment. And you find that when you are with the truth of the moment, that presence, just the presence of being with what is the alchemy, is the transmutation that like transforms any tension, any hurt, any drama. It starts to dissolve away. And it's so simple, but not a lot of people do it right now. And why? We haven't had role models, right? Like, ask anyone about their upbringing. There's been a lot of hurt and pain in our family upbringing. To this day, people have like really, intense relationships with family members, especially our blood family can bring up a lot. There's that fun, was it a Ram Dass quote that was like, you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
Yep.
So I was noticing how the voice and this kind of sacral activation, they really help us to open up to expressing ourselves in authenticity. The sacral is also like the seat of our creative power. And if you think of sound, sound creates. In the beginning, there was the word, So they're very intertwined in this. And if we go through the inner work of clearing and activating these centers within ourselves, we can then bring that into our relationships, whether that's with family members, parent, child, friends, lovers, business partners, whatever type of relationship it is, you're able to bring the fullness of yourself into that and be seen and communicate with kindness and compassion, but directness. There's a lot of walking on eggshells in society, or people pleasing, or just like being scared of like your reputation being tarnished. There's all these little subconscious programs running in the background. And so when we go through the process of connecting to our bodies and healing through these wounds in the psyche, are hanging out in the psyche, the ripple effect, the more we give to ourselves, the more we could give to others. So this retreat is really about initiating that journey of getting to the root energetic causes of this dis-ease we have within our relationships societally at large, um, so that we can, embark on that journey of healing our relationships in all forms and bringing them into greater harmony. So that's the theme. I don't know if Laura wants to add to that.
No, I think I want to echo, and also just, how much in our lives are allowing ourselves to, receive pleasure, and it doesn't have to be sexual, but just the pleasure of being alive, the pleasure of, looking outside the window and just feeling that aliveness within yourself, of, oh my gosh, I am alive. I am like here in this moment, and how fragile it is to be alive, and just, yeah, just I think when we open up into expression and connect with our pelvic area, it just opens up the portal for all of these pleasure and also pain. But at the end, it's like alchemizing this pain into pleasure and blessings. Like, how is this pain propelled us to actually feel more pleasure, and looking backwards and like, wow, look at this, where I am now. Like, I needed this to become where I am today. Like, this really propel me into this path where now I am more connected to myself and to others because of this pain, or because whatever I went through. And it's just like, yeah, it's just alchemizing that story that perhaps we have, and we tell ourselves over and over that it was, yeah, hurtful and painful. But when we provide a safe environment, and it just goes back also to the nervous system, the nervous system just sees two things: either it's safe or it's not. And so when we're in a container where there's safety, love, and compassion, it just unravels in ways that is so beautiful. The body just has its knowledge and its own wisdom, and we're just opening up a space where there's safety for your body to unfold in however it needs to unfold, from a safe space. Because as Christina, sorry,
You're okay.
as Christina was saying, like, with many of us growing up perhaps didn't feel the safety in certain areas of our lives. And when we are able to feel the same emotions and feelings in a safe space, it just kind of like your nervous system kind of rewires.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the purpose, really. It's like, it's a journey. It really is a journey. And not just from a place of individuality, but also in community. When you're being able, that was for me like the most thing that really allowed my nervous system to kind of land within itself, was to be able to be in a community that where I had full permission to cry, yell, scream, be angry, be ugly, be pretty, like all of it, right? Without the judgment. And that for me was very, very healing within my system. And I think this is what we're trying to really depict with these retreat, is like, yes, we're here to work on our personal, things. And it's also like through the collective that we can just, really provide that safety within the nervous system of being witnessed with loving eyes, that all of it is, welcome, and in fact cherished, because it's really what makes you unique and different. And so it's really just a beautiful journey. It starts on Friday, where we just gently come into community, allowing ourselves to know what our intentions are, getting to know each other a little bit as a community. It's going to be a very intimate group of people as well, because of the dynamics that we're going to be doing with emotions and stuff like that. It's just a space when it's safety, lots of things can come up. And yeah, it's just community, like singing together even, or just like allowing your system to receive too, like we just work, go to the next thing. We're just like running on very low fuel, and it's really a space for you to kind of refill your cup from a place of love and compassion, as well as, if you need to let go of some stuff that perhaps it's like it keeps coming over and over and over, then this is a great opportunity to do that, because you're going to be seen, witnessed, and provide tools that you actually can help yourself to like let your body unfold. And as the days come, also like with integration. So it's just built up in such a way that it really takes you into like a journey of welcoming. Like this is opening up the space. This is the people that we're gonna be spending like for a few hours, like, well, from Friday night till Sunday morning. And yeah, it's just, there's different activities, which I am super excited about, because it really, it's not just only about, oh, like we're just gonna be crying and like hating ourselves. No, like it's also the opportunity to touch onto your joy and your vibrancy of a human, to what it is to be alive and to move your body and to embody and to like pray for your body and its movement. And that's what many of these activities are like. We like design them in such a way that it's like we're gonna be moving and also coming back to the heart and just like allowing the system to kind of relax, and then we're gonna have like some activation
and some partner exercises. So it's not
exercises.
all a solo journey. There's going to be not just being witnessed in the full circle, but also like with a pairing. So and just something I wanted to echo from Laura is like all of this, we both came from a background of being very much in the mental body and the intellect, me in science, her in like in her background, and we've come onto this journey of like really moving into the body and allowing the body's intelligence to guide us and to be, allow the nervous system to rewire. And, I come from a lens that we are our own best medicine, that everyone has a unique divine plan, and everything in this retreat is to serve, like to be in coherence with each individual's unique divine plan. So it's not like a system, a cookie cutter system. The activities and the ceremonies are designed to allow your unique inner compass, your unique body wisdom to come forward. We're not in the mental body. It's going to be throughout with all these somatic activities. So it's like you are, through participating in all the retreat activities and the ceremonies, you are your own healer. You're rewiring, you're putting yourself through these little psychic surgeries and all that. So you don't need to, it's not like a retreat where you're going to be inundated with information and get overwhelmed and have a bunch
It's
of
not like
tools.
a Tony Robbins retreat.
It's not a Tony Robbins. God bless Tony, but it's different. It's a more feminine angle.
We're using the body like a lot.
The body a lot.
So for people who are newer to this space and maybe they haven't been on a spiritual retreat, or maybe they're early in their journey, what are some things that they could research online just generally to kind of get more familiar with this realm of science and spirituality, like around somatics, around different types of healing? Like what could they do to kind of get themselves more well versed just in terms of your realm and the things that you touch?
What came through me right now as you're asking the question is, you can look for how the nervous system works, like there is a lot of science within the nervous system. This is not just woo-woo stuff that we're just talking and it's just like, oh, beautiful. No, like this is really real science of how the nervous system kind of perceives the world, like how we have the sympathetic and how we have the parasympathetic, and depending on our experiences and constantly, it's actually, we are sensing more than what we actually think. But the thing is that we live a lot in our heads, and then we are not really paying attention to these subtleties of what our nervous systems are picking up on a constant daily basis. So I would say, like there's so much research on the nervous system and how the mind and the body connection, you know, there is a lot of research on that as well, of how we can bridge, you know, it's not that, that's the thing, it's like, it's not separation, it's a unity. But in the society, we separate things, we like to isolate things, right? And it's just like, well, we can read a lot about the nervous system and understand that stress, it's a real thing, you know, physiologically. And stressors can come from many things. It can come from emotions. It could come from accidents, trauma, you know, like that can stress our system. It could come from food. It could come from many things during the day. It could come from an experience with your boss that, you know, you had a little bit of like an irritation, and that story on its own can, you know, just create a little tiny stress within your system. And that on its own has its own physiological ripple effect within the body. And there's also a lot of research on the fascia, you know, like this, like very thinly connective tissue that goes all over the body, that is adaptable and fluid. And when we have a lot of stress that is chronic, and, you know, wounds that we haven't perhaps seen in a safe space, this fascia kind of like hardens. It hardens in such a way that now we're like, we have tension, we have like many things, you know, like start to come up into the physical world, like we have manifestations, because again, we have all of this hardening. And when that happens, oxygen, nutrition, blood supply, it's very hard to come into our tissues. So we're open to anything to kind of expose our tissues to, you know, disease and foreigners and pathology and all of the stuff that we're now seeing. And so, yes, there's a big component of spirituality, and also there's a big component on science, because the more we come into our body, the more we're aware of these sensations, the more we're able to work within these energies that arrive within the day in our interactions. So I think that's a good, like, I like to really, like, whenever there's people that is a little bit skeptical, it's just like really like looking into what happens with the nervous system, and really, again, going back to, it's about safety or not safety. So it's kind of allowing your nervous system to come back to safety. And sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need a group of people that is able to hold the space so that our system feels safe to feel whatever that needs to be seen. Because yes, we can do this alone, but like, how is that going for you? You know, like maybe you've been trying for years. So it's just also a reflection of like, how long have I been trying to, you know, make things better or change or whatever. And sometimes we just need help, and our nervous system can really rewire really quickly through play.
Mhm.
I know for myself, prior to my spiritual awakening 6.5 years ago, I was holding a lot of stuff in my fascia. A lot of stuff in that part of my body. So yes, I can account for myself that that's very real for sure.
Yeah. A few like concrete resources that came to mind. I'll just spit them out. The Body Keeps the Score. The Neo-Emotional Release website has compiled resources. If you go to Tom Kenyon, I believe it's tomkenyon.org. I'm not positive, but if you Google Tom Kenyon Hathors, he has a section on his website. He's a scientist in auditory, like neuroscience, the science of sound and how it interacts with the brain and the nervous system. And he has a section on his website of all the science resources of sound and how it helps rewire the body, and is a healing modality. And there was one more that had come to my mind. If you want a very quick, beautiful read, The Spirit of Intimacy by Sabonfu Somé. She's from I believe it's the Dagara village in West Africa. And she wrote a book about just the power of being held in community, and how in Western society we've become very isolated, and even within especially romantic relationships, we feel like we need to figure it out, just the two of us on our own, like this little isolated unit, and how that's actually very unnatural for the human spirit. We're not meant to be in these little isolated relationship boxes. One relationship in the community is the community's relationship. When two people in the community get married, everyone in the community is getting married. If there's a conflict with two people in the village, it's everyone's conflict. So it's just a really beautiful kind of poetic read, with a lot of really profound wisdom nuggets sprinkled in throughout. Very short little book, that would just kind of contextualize the power of just being held in the communal space throughout this journey in this process.
Lastly, what would you say to the men out there? I think a lot of times in our culture, especially if you hear the word intimacy, which to your point is often solely associated with like sex. What would you say to men who maybe are listening to this or considering a retreat like this versus a woman? Like anything you can offer them to get over some hurdles of entering into a space like this?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my heart is you're welcome here. We see you, we love you, we please, enter the space. We're honored to hold you. There's so much pain in the collective male psyche with being vulnerable, with being emotional, with being seen in that, with that being okay, with thinking that you're not man enough if you're emotional or emotionally released. And we would love to bring you into a space where we can help unravel that and undo that. Because when you're able to feel the empowerment and the beauty and the softness of being able to melt into those spaces, you will be nourishing your communities and your relationships so much more than you are now. And there is a strong, in the male principle, if you think about the two principles of creation, the masculine, the feminine's associated with a lot of like the nurturing and the motherly, the creative, wild energy, Shakti. The masculine principle, the mountain, the stillness of the mountain, the riverbed that holds the water. So your capacity to be in that divine masculine expression will be so much more enhanced after a retreat such as this, both for yourself, to hold yourself, and to hold others. And there's a very strong desire in the male psyche to be able to provide and support. And there's a reason for that and a purpose to that, because that is like, in a way, the highest expression of the masculine principle is to be the riverbed. So I think like this retreat would really help to increase the capacity to be that. And that would be very fulfilling to different aspects of the self. I trust that everyone who would be drawn to this type of retreat is very welcoming. And, so long as we show up with a pure intention and a humble heart, like, we're here for each other. So we welcome you.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I'd like to add something
Yeah,
there.
please go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, yes, it is scary because we've never been to these spaces before, and the thought of being vulnerable and can be very overwhelming. So I see you in that. And also, if there's like the slight impulse of your heart of like, oh, this could be interesting, I would follow this impulse, because there's wisdom in this impulse that your body's trying to tell you, like sometimes the question and the reflection that I would ask is like, is this decision coming from a place of love, or is this decision coming from a place of fear? Like, I can't do this, like this is too overwhelming. And that's okay, like you will know at the end. And like that, what Christina was saying, like we trust that the people that will receive this message and will receive the service of this space is the people that will be there. And but yeah, just to really follow and listen to this little heart intuition and in curiosity, approach it with curiosity, because it might be the thing that changes, you know, your life really, because the only thing we need for transformation is a change in consciousness, really, awareness. And if you, by the end of these 2 days, are more aware of your feelings and perhaps your challenges of vulnerability, you're already unraveling these things for yourself and your body that eventually with time will get you to where you want. So it's just an opportunity, and it's an open door for you to be curious and also like nurture that little scare perhaps voice that is like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I think that's valid. And just know that we have hold spaces and that we know what it feels like, and it just gets better. Because I, as a woman, felt this way too of, well, what is this? You know, like I've never been to one, like I don't know what to expect. Yeah, like all of this sounds very nicely, but like, whoa. And all I have to say is that I can only speak from my experience, but it was one of the best decisions that I made for me because it opened up so many other doors, not only for myself, but with my relationships, you know, with my husband, with my family, like Christina, kind of coming back to that. It just, my expression is way better. I wouldn't be able to take the space and talk like I am right now if it wasn't for the work that I've been doing, you know. And yes, you're here to take space into this world. It's like, yes, can you receive more and all that it is there for you, that the universe and God and all of it wants for you. So it's just an invitation for you to say yes to yourself and to know that we're here to hold space and see you in wherever you are. And yeah, it can be scary, and that's okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you both for sharing time and space this morning. And I guess I'll be out in the forest with you in just over a month. Looking forward to that with early spring and all the beautiful things that we'll get to share and experience. So thank you again for your trust and your courage. And I know this is going to be a beautiful co-creation. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Bala.
Bala.
And see you
And
soon.
thank you.
See you.